for items 12 and 13. So, Sam, over to you. Thank you.
Hey, perfect. Thank you very much, Andrew. Look, probably two things. I guess welcome, Tim, as the new Chief Executive of CCHL. It's really good to have you on board, and we're really thrilled, I guess, that you've taken the opportunity to come with us. What I might do is pass over to Linda from our team to run through it if you've got any opening remarks, and then hand over to CCHL. They can run through it, and then we'll go to questions if councillors have that. So, Linda, do you want to go first? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The report is the CCO half-year reports, and they include civic building, local government funding agency, Rod Donald Trust, and CCHL. I've just got a couple of comments. One is that the LGFA is coming down to give a presentation to councillors at the next finance and performance meeting. And CCHL's Q2 results for the half year ending 31 December came to finance and performance in February, at the February meeting. This is their interim report that was released to the market. There are no differences in the financial information. We've got CCHL here to give a short presentation, and I'll hand over to them.
Okay, so I might do a quick intro if I may, Sam. Great. So my name's Alex Skinner. I'm one of the independent board members. As mentioned, we issued our interim financial statements publicly on the 1st of March. Overall, it's been a strong result for the group, and that comment can be attributed across all companies. It's obviously been a very challenging 6 months, especially for the airport, and we've actually got a separate slide where we talk about the airport in a little bit more detail. We made good progress on sustainability, and as councillors, you'll know that in the last 6 months we issued a sustainability bond, only the second one in the market in New Zealand. And I think as councillors you can be very proud of that as an event. Councillors also requested more information on parent entities, so we've got a slide just on the parent entity and what their numbers looks like. And we've also got a slide at the end on looking forward. So I might hand over to Tony. We're going to share our screen and share the slides, and Tony can talk in a bit more detail on some of those components.
Thanks, Alex. Just going to get our screen sorted. Just bear with us for a moment. Can everyone see that at your end?
Doesn't look like it at the moment. Yeah.
Sorry.
What can you see, Sam?
At the moment, I can see me on the big screen, which no one really needs to see. But there's no PowerPoint.
I agree with that.
We could see the taskbar at the top.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to test this, unfortunately.
Looking promising.
Look, that's okay. If it doesn't work, just give a verbal update. That's fine. So I mean, it's still being live streamed, so it's not really an issue.
There it is.
Aha, good.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for your patience. Right, I'll just dive into it.
We're just bringing up, Aidan's just bringing up the presentation now, so we will share it. So, because we're not actually seeing your presentation on your sharing, Tony. So we'll do it from here.
Sorry.
15 minutes are almost up, Sam.
Sorry.
That's okay. You've made a dividend. It's fine.
Here we go. You're away now.
Yeah, perfect. We can see that good as gold. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Can we move to the next slide, please? Thanks. Okay, so I'll just dive straight in. So a key achievement for CCHL during the half year was the launch of our first sustainability bond in October, which Alex just referred to. It was our It was only the second sustainability bond to be issued in New Zealand after Kainga Ora. The bond was double oversubscribed and issued at a coupon rate of 3.01%, including a 35 basis point margin. As a group, CCHL provides a significant contribution to the economy. On an annual basis, it connects over 211,000 customers to electricity, with Orion being New Zealand's third largest electricity distributor. The group also connects over 138,000 customers to Enable's fibre broadband across Christchurch, Selwyn and Waimakariri. Over 430,000 20-foot shipping containers are processed through the Littleton Port Terminal, and more than 3 million domestic and international passengers arrive into Christchurch's airport terminal. The group also employs almost 3,000 people and operates the city's water infrastructure services and a recycling plant. Next slide, please. Thank you. In terms of the group results, the group delivered a strong result in the half year despite the ongoing pressures caused by COVID, with the seaport, fibre and electricity businesses providing strong support to the group and the wider community. Operating revenue was 520 million, up 24 million on the previous half year, and net profit was 36 million, an increase of 10 million. The key drivers were increased container volumes and pricing at LPC, despite the continued impact of COVID on the cruise industry and supply chain volatility across the industry, and connection growth at Enable. The airport's operating revenue was relatively flat compared with the previous half year, but remains 30% lower than pre-COVID levels due to a lack of tourism. CityCare saw a 6% reduction in revenue compared to the previous half year due to the impact of lockdown restrictions on contracting during the period. Group assets have increased to 4.9 billion, mostly made up of property, plant and equipment and investment property. The 300 million increase is driven by continued investment property development at the airport, capital programs at Orion, LPC and Enable, and the revaluation of net assets at the airport, Enable and Orion in FY21. Although borrowings have increased, cash held for debt maturities has increased by a similar amount. Next slide, please. Looking further at the key drivers of net profit, and in particular the movements between December 2020 half year and the December 2021 half year. I previously mentioned the increased container volumes and pricing at LPC and connection growth at Enable being the key drivers of increased operating income of 24 million that you can see there. The other key movement compared to the previous half year is operating costs, which have increased by 11 million, attributable to personnel costs of 5 million and general operating expenses of 6 million. These increased costs are mostly resulting from the impacts of COVID, such as lockdown restrictions, border closures, high inflation, including wage inflation, labour shortages, supply chain delays, etc. Although it's a relatively small amount, interest costs have come down by 3 million due to lower interest rates during the period. There were no other material movements between the half-year reporting periods. Next slide, please. Previous half year saw higher revenue and profit, largely due to a 17 million special dividend from RBL Property in that period, although the receipt of a 6 million dividend from Enable in the current half year has partially offset the impact of that. Parent assets have increased by 400 million to 3.8 billion due to the revaluation of investments at the airport and Enable in FY21 and 85 million on lending to LPC. Borrowings have increased mostly due to the issue of the 150 million sustainability bond that I mentioned earlier. Next slide, please. Both the parent and the airport are debt listed on the NZX and therefore are required to produce interim and annual reports. The airport's recently released half-year results are summarised here. Revenue and profit were impacted by the 3-month Auckland lockdown and border closures, but are largely in line with the previous half year that was also impacted by lockdown restrictions. And also noting that revenue is down 31% compared to the last pre-COVID half year. The airport has preserved its balance sheet position throughout COVID and has continued with its investment property development program. Passenger numbers of 1.5 million were down 11% on the previous half year and are down 56% on pre-COVID levels. The airport is looking forward to the reopening of the borders and is well placed to thrive again from FY23 onwards. Next slide, please. The parent has received 41 million in dividends during the half year, mostly from Orion, but noting that the Orion dividends represent the final dividend for for 2021, plus the interim dividend for 2022, due to Orion's 31 March balance date, whereas the dividends from LPC, Enable and CityCare are interim only. Dividends in the previous half year were higher, mainly due to the 17 million special dividend from RBL Property, which was mostly passed on to council in 2021, when the parent paid 34 million in dividends compared with the target of 18.8 million. Whilst no interim dividend has been paid to the council in line with the statement of intent, CCHL is on track to meet its full year commitment of 16.1 million in line with its full year target. Next slide, please. So just looking ahead, Christchurch Airport is committing 400 hectares of its Harewood campus to Kowhai Park, a new solar platform for generating renewable energy at scale to enable businesses to transition away from fossil fuels. Enable has partnered with council to deliver free Wi-Fi for Christchurch CBD. EcoCentral is working on the installation of a world-class sorting and optical technology upgrade to its recycling plant. The group is working on the delivery of its greenhouse gas emissions reduction plan with targets to be included in the final statements of intent due out at the end of June. And finally, the parent has a 150 million bond maturing in late 2022 and options for refinancing will be considered closer to the time. That concludes our presentation and we welcome any questions.
Great, thank you very much, Tony. I mean, I'll kick them off and I'm sure there'll be others, but and I do it every time, so I apologise. But in terms of the dividend for next year, I mean, looking at what's forecast, do you see a bit of certainty around that?
Well, we haven't changed our forecasts at this stage. Obviously, we will need to consider those dividends once we get the final budgets in from the group in the coming couple of months. But we're not currently looking at any changes.
Okay, but you'll definitely keep council in the loop because we obviously need that around our annual plan.
Absolutely.
Yep, perfect. Okay, does anyone else have any questions? No? Okay, well, Phil does. Yep, Phil and then Yanni.
Yep. Thanks, Sam. Thank you, guys. What's your cunning plan? And I know it's not easy because there's a lot of things not making as much money as it should, but what's your plan on reducing your debt?
Okay.
Using operating cash flows to pay it down, Phil.
Yeah.
And trying to give some certainty on dividends is a very tough balance.
That's right, because I know we're hungry for dividends off you, but we don't want to be taking so much off you, you can't pay down your debt either because you've got a fair bit on your plate by the look of it.
That is very much top of mind of the board.
Yeah, that's our job, Phil, is to tread that balance.
Thank you, guys. Good.
Yanni?
Thank you. Just had three questions, thanks. Just wanted to check if you were able to give us a sense of the Terrace Airport development. Obviously, there's probably going to be a big thing happening on Friday, and I was just keen to understand from CCHL's point of view where things have got to in terms of the concerns that have been expressed around the environmental impact of that project and also the cost, whether there's been any update on progress. And I note in the airport's update, they make reference to community outcomes, but they don't mention anything about the community funding that they're putting in to the terrace community. So I don't know whether there can be any advice given today or whether we can get something in writing.
Yanni, you've asked that question, so can CCHL respond, please?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so on the first point, Yanni, as you and probably aware, this is the airport development in Terrace is going to run for a fairly significant time period for all of the consultations and planning that's required to occur. It's very front of mind, the environmental considerations around that, and I believe we directed a link to you or earlier in the week to the public-facing information and the process material that surrounds how they're thinking about that. But this is a very long-term project, and they're very much in the early stages of it.
Right, so I think, Yanni, you had another question.
Yeah, cool. I was just trying to understand from the work that CCHL is doing, whether you can give us an update on the implementation of a living wage.
Yep, happy to do that. Across the group, all of the subsidiaries are working toward living wage being a cornerstone of their relations with staff and contractors. On the majority, the group subsidiaries are already ahead of the game there, so most are already paying living wage, and we've made inquiries in the last week or so with respect to the accreditation process that surrounds that as well. So we'll receive some feedback about how the companies are thinking of that. And in respect to one or two of them, we've had some active dialogue in this week surrounding getting a bit more clarity as to where they are and how soon that will be before they can to look to implement it.
So you've got one more question?
Oh yeah, sorry. Just in regards to the living wage, do you know when we'll be in a position to complete the work and report back to the council on the introduction of it? Is there a date that CCHL has in mind to sort of wrap it all up and bring it back to us?
We don't have a firm date as yet, but once we've completed this next round of meetings with the subsidiaries, we'll come back to you and give you some guidance as to when that forecast may be able to be discussed.
Right. Okay. Thanks. Just the final question I had was really around enable, and just I'm not sure if we're going to get I just sort of it's kind of hard to understand why enable's embarking on massive communication campaigns around people switching to fibre. And I mean, obviously they've got a huge amount of the network in, and there's been upgrades happening and all sorts of information, but I just wondered in terms of a strategic view going forward, whether there's any briefing plan for councillors to kind of understand what phase enable's in. I guess my concern is in terms of operating costs.
Yanni, I think you've made a really good point, and I talked about it with Dawn late last week about getting the company in. So we will definitely do that. I mean, Tim, do you have anything you can add, or shall we move on?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sam. We've made the approaches now to the companies to have the chief executives available for a fireside chat with councillors until COVID conditions change, so that they can come in to see you in person, or in the alternative, site visits can be made available to councillors. So we're definitely underway with that one. So look out from us for further communications about when those meetings and visits can be scheduled.
Perfect. Thanks very much. Yanni, have you got anything else?
Yeah, sorry, just in regards to that enable one, will that have an ability to kind of understand the strategic thinking behind that company as it sort of moves from, the investment that it's made into the operations that it's got?
Yeah, I can update it will. So,
Okay, cool. Thank you.
perfect. Celeste, and then Leah, I think you've got a concluding comment.
Kia ora. I was just wondering if any of the representatives from CCHL might be around on Friday to speak to some of the people that will be coming to council, and if they can perhaps someone can speak to, you know, measures that have been taken to increase transparency around some of the decision making around tariffs, because I think, you know, there are some genuine concerns that a lack of transparency around decisions, mean that there isn't much oversight of some of that process.
Thanks, Celeste. We'll get back to you on that one if we can. It predates my time here, so I'll just need to talk to the team, and we'll get back to you. And if we can make someone available for Friday, we certainly will.
Perfect. So you'll take that on notice. Leah, do you want to just conclude, and then I'm going to move it, and Phil's happy to second it. David.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, I'm confusing everyone because I'm actually in the chamber, but I'm online as well. I just wanted to respond to Phil Major's question before in regards to the debt repayment. So I just also wanted to just reassure the elected members that as you'll be aware, late last year we appointed a group treasurer which looks after the debt program for both CCHL and council. So there is a lot more alignment in regards to the debt requirements and the impact on the balance sheets of both the holdings company and council. And conversations, even though Tim has only been in the seat for a couple of weeks, the conversations and those treasury meetings include CCHL. So there is already lots of conversations happening, and will continue to do in regards to where the repayment of debt is best suited, rather than just one way or the other. And it is very promising to see the results of CCHL. So our discussions around dividends will continue.
Perfect. Thank you, Leah. So I'm going to move that Phil second. Does anyone want to discuss it? All right, well, I'll put that to the vote. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Great. Against? That's carried. Hey, thank you very much, Tim and the team, for coming in. That's wonderful.
Cheers, Sam. Thank you very much.